Okay, let's try this again. It's like four failed attempts. Like every time I tried to start this video this morning, it says chat chat not available, live chat not available. I'm like, well, I'm not gonna film if I'm not gonna have live chat. What's up, Wolf? Yup, taking the dog for a walk. Oof, you're on a raid. You're on mobile. See, we did this some of this thin this down with water this time. This matte medium. So this hobby store that we have here in town is a chain, and it's kind of a Christian chain. And one of the things they do is they're not open on Sundays, so you got to plan your hobbying. But I was looking for, they have a lot of, like, it's more of a craft store than anything else. Good morning, Jeffrey. It's more of a craft store than anything else, and I wanted to see if they had maybe some a little Hindu type pendant or whatever to put on, to make some kind of like little glyph or whatever here, like hidden in the thing. And they didn't have anything. I was like, man, I scoured the store yesterday. They didn't have anything. So like, it's very very strange that they wouldn't have had that. Maybe it's because it's some, they didn't want to put idols, or I don't know what, it just seems awfully coincidental. Like, just a harmless little elephant dude, or a little Buddha or something, We're not worship the idol, we're going to shoot at it. But anyhow, I'm like, okay, so I came up empty handed with that. I did buy more cork, and I did get we'll see how this works later on. We did buy a new air hose. We got a 10-foot air hose. So maybe that'll give me some mobility. It's actually cheaper than at the spray gunner side. I was surprised. So, yeah, we'll see how that goes. All right, so we got to paint some plants because we don't have any plants for this stuff. So we got to paint some plants. We got to put some rocks on here with the matte medium, and we'll just see how it goes. Maybe an Asian supermarket. I don't know. Am I allowed to go to those? I could order it online. I'm like, I like to go to a store and pick things up. I'll have to have Mitch pick it up for me at an Asian supermarket. He doesn't go to the Latin store, and I don't go to the Asian supermarket. I don't go to the Latin store either. Oh, man. What you doing here? I don't know. I'm just, what this is, hobby tack. This is the snow stuff. Okay. I like using the stuff that I already have. All right, we got this stuff to do. I did pick up more strong tone. Just John Wayne it. I don't know. I don't know what the hell that means. I'm gonna look that up. Man, I had some fun yesterday. I don't know. You have to explain that to me. I think I may have only seen one John Wayne movie ever. How could you say that? I said, yeah, I think I've only seen one. Which one is it? Shit, maybe I've seen none. I mean, obviously I've seen clips of different ones, but I don't do westerns. Isn't he in that movie with Kirk Douglas? It's one of my black and white movies. Where they where Kirk Douglas ends up like cheating around on his wife or something like that, and then he goes on a suicide mission. It's a World War II movie. I forget what it's called. That may be the only John Wayne movie I've seen completely. I've tried to watch Longest Day, but between it just no. Yeah, I'm not interested in that. All right, we need some rocks. Rocks are over here. When he played Genghis Khan, oh man, when he got, has it been confirmed that that's what caused him to have cancer? That movie scene in the a movie that's made in the freaking desert of nuclear tests. Genghis Khan. God, that's a terrible cast. Speaking of miscast things, but this one actually worked. I need to see The Warlord again. It really surprised me when I had seen it, and I'm not sure this is going to work. I think I'm going to need to use a combination of the two things. This is too thin, and this is too thick. This is what I used last time. Is Charlton Heston as playing a bad guy? Like, wow, that's really unusual. But yeah, I think this works right here. Combination of the two things. So anyway, Don, who he's been in a couple videos. Anyways, he's retired Navy. He's been playing that War Thunder, and we decided to do PT boats. Man, that's a freaking hoot, because it's like that works a lot better with the Xbox controller. Good morning, Barnes. Invasion of the white people. Oh man. Now, I don't know how long this is going to take to dry, but I got lots of stuff to do before we're going to prime this black. The good thing is the priming part, that dries in an instant. Yeah, I could go online and find one, but I wanted to see if there was something to, put it on one of these bays. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to do like something that has like a cliffside. Cliffside, I mean, it's only going to be this tall or however tall the little thing is. Like there's some like hidden shrine there in the jungle or whatever. It's got to be something Buddhist or whatever, but not one of those, Buddha that's stretching, laughing or whatever. Something a little bit more serious, you know. You don't want to worship some kind of icon that's like having fun at a party. And I don't know shit about Buddhists. Maybe you don't worship Buddha at all. I don't know. I don't want to get into that. So I'll put that on. I tried the first one I did. I'd use this stuff straight, and I was like, man, this is a problem. Yeah, that was a hoot. I was ended up playing a game. I was in the room by my. I was in the main room, just on the big TV by myself, and the girls were in the room, and I'm like cackling by myself. So I was in a PT boat. And I was running away from somebody and shooting, and I T-boned another boat, and I kept rolling it like a freaking log, and it was just hilarious. I hadn't even seen it, and there's no friendly fire in it, so it was like a friendly PT boat. I just apparently T-boned it. I was going completely away from my target. Crazy shit that happened. Also, what was it? I was playing a game with Don, and I fired. I shot at this other enemy PT boat, and it caught fire and sank, but it was still traveling like at 40 knots, slowing down. And somehow I maneuvered in front of him and cut left, and the wreck hit me and sunk me. It was like just some funny shit. Like who needs to play Cruel Seas when you have this? But I don't know jack shit about PT boats. I don't know jack shit about them because I never gamed that. I mean, I gamed, talk to me about destroyers and cruisers and battleships. But PT boats, I don't know shit about them. Like I told him, I said, they're not exciting. Well, why aren't they exciting? I said, because they don't have names. It's hard to get excited about, oh, well, PT-86 is a piece of shit. PT-89 is a good one. Like, who gives a shit? They don't have a name. It's not like, it's the Eskimo or the Nubian or something like that. They don't have, they're not destroyers where they have freaking names. They just got these silly ass numbers. Give them some names if you want me to care. So I was watching some show a couple months ago, and this time period of everybody being offended by everything, I found a new thing that is supposedly a no-no. And I'm just trying to keep you guys safe, so they don't come after you either. And apparently, if you're not one of them, it's frowned upon to use the term Eskimo. So you're not allowed to, talk about Inuit people and call them, an Eskimo. If you're not an Eskimo, which I'm not. I know that comes as a shock for some of you. I'm not part Eskimo, but you'd think I would be as cold as I like it all the time. I think this worked. I think this worked the best. You put one drop of this, and then spread it around with some of the watered down stuff. Let's do one here. This one will be rockier than the other ones, and then one over here. Let's see how this works. Now we're going to take some of this stuff here and spread this out. So kind of have an in between. Probably shouldn't even make a mix. I should just probably use some water. Honestly, of all the things I like, of all the things that they call the, people that inhabited North America, of course, somebody will probably get offended by that and like, oh, we shouldn't call it North America. You should call it, something else. First Peoples seems like a good name for that because it makes sense. Although, who knows? The next thing you find out, in a couple of years, oh, well, they really didn't come over the land bridge. I said, fuck you, and Pluto's still a planet. Don't destroy my childhood. Okay, that worked pretty well. So we're gonna come in here, and we're gonna do the same here. couple of the rocks got left on there. That's fine. We can put them there. Erosion. You know, like I said before, I actually don't mind that this takes a while. I don't like the drying time part. That part I'm not a fan of. I'm not a fan of that I have to work on multiple things if I have, if I want to stay busy. Because some of these things require drying. Okay. And this knoll that's here, we're going to leave it alone. There's going to be like a knoll here. This one. I'm not going to put any large rocks on this one. We're going to put some sand here. One drop there. Drop there. I don't even know how I got this. It looks like it's, I don't know what it is. I don't think it's sand. I think it's like itty bitty rocks or something. I went out with the daughter yesterday and ran some errands, and the game store is one of the places I went to, which my daughter won't get down at, which I don't blame her. Some freaking weird ass nerd burglars. You weird ass nerd burglars. Yeah, I'm not talking about people that are just, introverts that lack self confidence. That's fine. You know, being somebody who doesn't take a shower or, is creepy as fuck, those things are that's when you start getting into the realm of people that are socially awkward and lack self confidence. That's I think that's just kind of a normal thing that most people go through at some point in their life. But like not taking a fucking shower and stuff like that, like that's what's ultra weird. So I have this strange problem. I got talked into it by a family member about doing this Google surveys. They send you a survey every. He apparently is my brother, by the way. He apparently said that he gets them quite frequently. It took me a while to get them, and I probably get one survey every 2 days or something like that. But they pay you in monies that you can use on in my case, not the Apple Pay. I don't have one of them Apple things. I don't have one of them Apple Core phones. At the Play Store to buy apps. So I got like $20. I'm like, all right, what can I do with this money? So I went and looked for apps. I just don't see any apps worth buying. I don't know, maybe I'm missing something, but I don't know that I use apps that much to begin with, but I mean, there's an app that I thought was pretty cool, some Torque something or another, and you could hook up to your, the computer in your car, and it'll give you, 0 to 60 times and, torque this and fuel efficiency. I mean, it automatically tells me fuel efficiency, so I don't need that, but like, that's kind of cool, but then you got to buy a $15 or $20 thing you plug into your car and it can read it through Bluetooth. I'm like, all right, well, I don't really want to do that. I didn't sign up to spend more money. I mean, that's not my MO. I haven't found anything worth a damn to use those credits on. I'm so used to not spending any money on apps. Apps being free. It's not that I don't want to spend any money on them, but it's like, you get to try. If something sucks, I certainly don't want to spend any money on it. And you've already bought it. Kind of hard to get your money back if something stinks. It's part of the trade. I trade you money for an app that works a damn. If you don't do your part of the bargain, which is make an app that works properly, why should I have paid you any money for it? Okay. If I find somewhere flat or flattish, I don't think that stuff's gonna roll off the edges. All right, let's look at some zones that we gotta. I'm gonna put some here on the beach. Beach, kind of. If this was an island, this would be a beach. Next time I do this, I'm just gonna put straight water in here. We got a lot of spider webs here from the hot glue gun. I think that's what it's from. All right. Now, the rock zones. This one's going to be big enough. It's going to have both. And it could be that this, I can't do anything until like very late today. Maybe even tomorrow. But we got lots of stuff. We got lots of stuff we can be working on. What's the name of that game that the guy that designed that Gaslands came up with for the Pacific? I think it's got a fairly generic game. One you guys was telling me it's not very good. Well, if somebody who's not a World War II acolyte tells me the game's not very good, I'm really not going to like it. You talk about a World War II game, and if World War II is not your religion, and you say, man, it's a little too complicated for me, now my ears like, huh? Okay, now we're kind of interested in. But if it's like too basic, like, every carrier being the same, I'm like, yeah, I don't give a shit about that. That's not the. I'm not the audience for that. We'll put some more of these heavy rocks down here. I was having a conversation with somebody the other day, and I had to defend the British Navy. They were talking shit about the British aircraft carriers, how they weren't very good. I'm talking about World War II. Don't be talking shit about my British aircraft carriers. I had quite a few of them, 1/2400 scale. Although the one I used the most was Eagle. I used Eagle a lot. But one of the reasons I used Eagle a lot is it only carried 24 planes, so it's not like it's overpowering. Man, this is a much better choice than MDF. This cork. And you know, I feel like if this was like dust and particles from MDF, I'd be like, it'd be dusty. And I don't know, I just feel like cork is really clean. Matter of fact, here's some cork. Here's some cork bits. Let's put some of that here and see what we get. I ticked off your Mega Italian Wars project last Sunday. Started off with a challenge. Stradiates with horse and rider glued together. So far, so good. Like, you pre-glued them, or you decided to paint ones that already were glued together? I don't mind them being already pre-glued, except that if it starts looking like it's the same guy over and over and repeated over again. From the handiness of painting, I would rather everything everything being glued together and then paint it all together. I can paint anything I can see, I can get to. That's never an issue for me. But like museum miniatures makes a lot of figures that are all, you know, the old school museum miniatures that are all, you know, horse and rider together. And the problem is that you can't mix and match, so it limits your variety, so to speak. Stradians, hey, let's have those silly hats. Men with silly hats, little top hat looking things. Those are Albanians, right? I think they're Albanian cavalry that just... I know the Venetians used them a lot. I think everybody used them a lot. I don't think the French used them a lot. I don't know that I don't know that I have any Stradiot figures. I certainly don't have any painted. But most of my Renaissance stuff is unpainted. I glued them, did a lot of conversion with green stuff. Well, that's cool. Yeah, I'm in my infancy of using green stuff still. I probably always will be. I could probably make some really good things with green stuff. I think it's a drying time thing. I don't like having to wait. Well, we got a lot of rocks on this thing. Some spillage here. What rules are you going to use for that? You know, I would love, and I just don't have the motivation to do it. I would love to play the perfect captain set, whatever their rules thing is. Pistolado, I think is what it's called. That thing looks like it's got a lot of historical flavor. I just don't have it in me to pick up a set of rules and learn it on my own. I can't think of anything that's less interesting. Well, I can. I go to work. But we have to do that. All right. Was that the third one? That's the third one. All right, cool. All right, so we've got these three are drying. Got a decent seal on this. Let's, one of my favorite games, and it's available really cheap now, is that Pike and Shot game. Made by Slytherin. Who's it made by? I think Slytherin. I really like that game. There's a lot of those games that aren't high tech on Well, they're not. I wouldn't say they're not high tech on graphics, but they're not like something outstanding. But they look really good, and that's one of those games I think that looks really good. The Battle of the Bulge and Drive on Moscow, those are also really good looking games. I really have enjoyed those games a lot. But I haven't played Pike and Shot campaigns in a long time, but the only gripe I have about that game is that there's no command stand. And you can't play both sides on the scenarios because of the AI writing or whatever. You can only play one side, but the problem is if I was going to do something like that and I wanted to show a tercio, the tercio has to have at least 16 figures in it. It's not going to look right. Maybe even more, maybe like 24. And when it's time to base that thing, you got to like base that. It's like, you're backing yourself into a corner. You got to start in the middle and then work your way out. Like putting the goop down and stuff and painting the goop. That just would take forever to do a stand. All right. Time to go to Plantasia. Look, I actually missed one of these that I already had done. Plantasia. Yeah. When we go to hedgerows, we're going to redo the hedgerows and we're going to put them on this stuff. And they're going to be, probably as a general rule, about 2 inches thick to stand. Oh, PC, yeah. Yeah, it's a freaking great game. I highly recommend. You don't even need a high-tech PC to run it, to play it. It's really inexpensive, too. And it might give you some Renaissance inspiration. It certainly inspired me. And there's certain things in there that, if I was going to make a set of Renaissance rules on my own, not influenced by other people, not having to cater to other people, then it would certainly be influenced. There's a lot of things that would be influenced by. All right, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to remove all these red plants. Okay? The red plants just look awkward. They might look okay, and it's not that I dislike them in and of themselves. They remind me of these plants that we planted in our first house called crotons. And they're a very prevalent plant if you go to one of those DIY stores that has a gardening section. They're a really pretty plant, and they usually have some red. Leaves look like this, and they have some yellow. They're nice looking plants, but they're annuals, which, I don't know shit about growing stuff. So I didn't realize, you plant these plants and every year you'll be doing the same fucking thing. I'm like, great. That's handy, not. All right. Now we're going to divvy these up into 2 groups. And I have tons of these because I kept that set of 50. Even though it wasn't the best value. red plant made it through. This is all of this style plant that I have, but I have a lot more of these. And they make a lot of plastic plants, but they don't make a lot of plastic plants that aren't oversized. Okay, I don't have that many of them. Where's the... Got a whole bag of those things. The extra palm trees to paint. That's the bamboo. I'm gonna live life dangerously. This is this pack of this from this other manufacturer of these. And I did not wash these, and I'm not going to. I'm gonna live life dangerously. And these are all the bushes that I have. The little plants. So there's a slight difference in color. These were 50 pieces, so I've got probably, I don't know, 70 of these. All right. And I don't know that I feel like I've spent a lot of money on them. Between all these plastic plants, about $110. You know, there's no risk. I mean, I could have returned any of them. Just decided that I did put a lot of thought in ordering. It's not like, oh, you just kept everything you ordered. I said, no, I was kind of careful ordering things. I didn't want to get things that I didn't think were going to work out. We need more of these little nubbins. This little cush ball of vegetation. Let's see how many of these we're going to have. 6. Let's do about an average of 8 for each one of them, so 24 of these. Okay, 2. Oh, this one's smaller. That's cool. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. This is probably one of the things that was the best deal of anything else. This was like $4. Yeah, $3.99. I mean, you know, I don't think I'll have to buy another one of these. I lost track. We'll just assume it's about 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27. Let's do just 30 or so. 28, 29, 30. All right, we'll put this back. Still got a lot more. Okay. All right, so we got this stuff to paint also. All right. Let's get a new one of these. I'm going to move these things out of the way. One of these I think is open. Maybe. fair amount of real estate here. Now, let's find a brush that kind of goes every which way. Something like, I think this is probably a good one. That's probably not a bad one either. Toning in the land of the cheap-ass brushes. It's peace of mind, man. Not spending money on stuff is peace of mind. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and do all this stuff first. War Master Strong Tone, of course. There we go. I don't see a big reason to glue these down. I could move them out of the way. I could reposition them based on the figures coming through the roughage. I haven't even dry brushed any of these things. I may or may not do that. I don't think that it's really necessary. There's a guy that was selling a bunch of stuff on eBay. He was selling a bunch of dragon armor. The guy had bought he had like a dozen Shermans. You know, starting bid on it was like, he started at 99 cents. I'm like, oh. Of course, you know, it's got like a week to go. Now it's up to like $30 or something. I'm like, no, I'm not paying $30 for that. As the saying goes, I need more Shermans like a hole in the head, but I'll get more Shermans. Hell, we don't even have any Marine Corps Shermans. Although, man, it seemed like overkill, but some Japanese tanks that could make an appearance on here that, you know, were only used on the home islands. And I'm not talking about that Oni, that huge bunker-looking thing. I'm talking about whatever the one is. There's one that was never had a 75mm gun in it and never got put outside of Japan in real life, but I forget what the hell it's called. It's actually pretty attractive looking. on, release me. This mindless shit is like, I don't get super excited about, mindless stuff. You buy some hand sanitizer today. I don't have any that I can use here in the house. I had plenty of it between the airbrush station, the one in the car. I always keep hand sanitizer in the car. You never know when, you're going to go and fill your car up with petrol. You don't want petrol hands. I got half of mine to do a vehicle, but I'm on a really good terrain roll, and it's looking really good. I'm definitely on the right track. I think the smart thing is just work on terrain till I'm run out of palm trees, which probably halfway there, something like that. But that's what I get excited about on games. You see terrain, it just looks amazing. You hate paying for stuff twice. Was looking for a 1mm plastic hollow rod. Nothing on eBay until I ordered some 1mm normal rod. Then some hollow stuff popped up on a day or two later. Yeah. Well, it's like what I say again. I don't consider myself a frugal person. But I've been a poor student before. Actually, I've been poor. I wasn't even a student. Poor meaning, don't have, normal stuff. So, I was talking about this with Marcus, but which, by the way, where the hell is he? You can't get that out of your system. If you've ever experienced, like, I don't know. So I'm mindful of being frugal when I can. And it's not frugal as much as just be happy with it and use the stuff you have. Don't be looking for new ways to spend money on things if you still have viable things that you can use. I guess that's a long-winded way to say it, but yeah, I get what you mean. I probably the worst thing you can do is one of the worst things you can do is be careful not to spend on money on things that you're not going to end up using at the end, because we've all done that. And it's really unsatisfying for me to do that, spend money on something and then not do anything with it. Like those people that just collect 1,100 models and never even open them out of the package. Like, have I finished painting every model I've done? No. But at least I built them. And I'm actually not. The last show I went to, I was kind of disappointed because I got so many good deals the previous show that I had this idea of what I was going to get, and it just wasn't there. It wasn't available there to, even buy. I specifically wanted to look for stuff for the Pacific. Japanese tanks, landing craft, stuff like that to start working on the not too specific Pacific. And they had none of that, regardless of price. They had none of it. And I can see that. The Pacific's not really popular. I can imagine it being in your guys' neck of the woods even less popular. And, people don't sell that stuff if they never bought it in the first place. I'm far from poor, still careful with cash. It's how I was brought up. Yeah, I don't know that I was brought up that way, but it doesn't feel good just throwing money at shit, you know? I say it all the time. I don't like throwing money at the problem. There's so many examples of people being stupid with their money that, you know, my biggest expense by far is food. I'm probably the most irresponsible with food than anything else. That doesn't mean I don't eat. I buy food and don't eat it and it goes bad. Oh no, the problem is I eat too much. That's my, if I have an addiction, it's that. Not necessarily stuff that's bad for you. I just eat too much of it. And like I went for a walk. My daughter wanted to go for a walk yesterday, and it was like hot as blazes. We waited until like 6 o'clock to go for a walk. We walked probably 2 miles, and I was hurting. I mean, in the time that I came back, the time that I've come back since Spain, and now, like, I need to exercise. I need to exercise more. I need to exercise, period. And I just like going for a walk and stuff. Like my mobility is definitely like sucks now. So I I got back. I was exhausted. I took a nap. I'm like, this means we got to walk. We got to walk every day. I need to get my 30 minutes of it. And we were out there for an hour, and it was fine. It was just, I got to do that. I'm going to be one of these people that's on one of those lounge chairs on, what was that movie? Wally. Everybody's a freaking lard ass and well, I wouldn't be a lard ass. I'd be a lard belly. As everything goes here, But I need to get some, I need to do some mobility. Like, it's just fucking walking. I mean, I walked all over I was in great shape when I went to Europe, and then I stopped walking. Like the last time I went walking. Nothing to look at here. I'm better than most people about not buying shit, though. I also have a lot of stuff to work on. It's not like I don't have anything. So, and we don't hang out with people that are spendaholics or people that are trying to impress other people by, the stuff that they have. Rich people don't impress me. Yeah, we definitely don't have food that goes bad. I know a lot of people do. It's like a sin to like throw away food. That is how I was brought up. You don't throw away food. I mean, if it's bad, yeah, or but. And one thing that's been really easy to cut out is going out to eat. We just never go out to eat anymore. It's like it sucks. Like half the time, it's a bad experience, and things cost, I don't know, 30-40% more than they used to 5 years ago. So I don't mind buying this stuff that's like $3 for a shitload of stuff, and it gives me a lot of entertainment value. Oh, look at this little. Oh, the baby tuft. Oh, look at the baby tuft. We went to an out of town shopping center the other week. An hour or so walking around, I was wrecked the next day. Yeah, it's normally, so for me, walking's never been an issue. It's standing that just kills me. I'm telling you, I got halfway down the block and I was hurting. Like my lower back was hurting. I'm like, I'm just spending too much time sitting around like this. Oh well. We'll get it fixed or it'll kill me. You know, don't have to give up drinking. I basically don't drink. You know, I don't have a sweet tooth, unlike some other people that I meet sometimes on Tuesdays. I don't know how that fucker has a tooth in his mouth, man. Everything's sweet. Basically, never drink. My daughter said something to me the other day that she said something along the lines, and I'm ad libbing. I said that nobody is as good with alcohol of her friends than she is. And I said, I know, that's why we raised you. Drinking is not a big deal. And, you don't get trash and you don't overdrink. And these people that are like, get these students that get their first chance of freedom and they turn into, wild people. My daughter never did that, you know. The other day I picked up this vodka. Went to go to the liquor store last weekend. Weekend went to the liquor store, and we pick up this vodka from Austria, and it was amazing. And it was amazing just to drink it, neat. You know, so we did like a bunch of tastings. Didn't overdrink. Never even had a buzz. Was able to drive fine afterwards because didn't have a buzz or nothing. Came home the other day, decided to open it up. Got a shot glass, poured half of the shot glass, and sipped on it. I'm like, you know, no dehydration headache. No, I mean it's not that important it's not that important part of my life. Like I told my daughter, so we just taught you to drink. Having a drink is just like an appetizer. It's exactly what it is. It's just another course, you know. Some people say, I gotta lose weight, I gotta cut out drinking. I can't cut out drinking. I don't drink. All that pain for 2.5 liters of U.S. Field Drab paint, worth it. Oh, you went to a store that had some paint? Now, you guys have access to paint that doesn't make it here into the States. There's no Humbrol acrylics. You can't walk in a store and expect to find any Humbrol acrylics. You can't walk into a store and find really the AK Real Color stuff. What's the other one that's always announced in a bunch of places? Is it Mr. Hobby or Gunsan? No, Gunsanyo I think has a very limited. But as much as I like Japanese stuff, and I do, and I mean Japanese products, I'm not a fan of Japanese paint. I like Spanish paint. I'm good with the Emo Migs and the Vallejo and that kind of, what is this stuff? This stuff used to be Danish, but I think they've subbed this up, and this stuff is made in Spain too. Yep, made in Spain. Yeah. Must be a bunch of paint sniffers in Spain or something. I don't know. You're never gonna get high sniffing that stuff. It doesn't have any smell. Well, I'm gonna admit I don't mind going shopping with a wife. Going to an outlet mall or something like that. I do not mind at all. And I am not tempted to buy anything, but I do like to look around. And if it's like, oh, I'm not leaving that on the shelf for $8. That's the kind of attitude I have. There might be something there that nobody wants that I'm not even going to play even remotely full price for. I'm not buying junk. I'm just buying stuff that's, this is last year's fashion kind of stuff. I'm like, okay, whatever. But I'm looking for deals. I'm certainly not, if you need something, if you like need a suit or something like that, and you got to buy a suit, okay, well, you got to buy a suit for a funeral or something. But I don't go out and I don't pay full price for clothes. That's not intelligent. Watches. I have multiple watches. I have multiple of these Swiss Army watches, and I had one of them that the battery went out on it. I went and replaced the battery, and it looks like the mechanism's gone. What I bought it used. I mean, it was good used, right? Like paid 24 to $32 for it, for $100 watch, $110 watch, whatever they went for, and it went bad. So I went and got my other one, which I had also gotten as well, and I had was in the face was in a different shape, whatever, and it had a battery that was corroded inside, so it doesn't work either. So I'm like, I went from like having three Swiss Army watches to having only one, this one. And I'm like, well, I got to shop on eBay for another one. 'Cause I got lots of the other two are the same model. Like I got all kinds of extra parts for it. I don't know how to work on watches, but I can pull out my contacts and YouTube and probably figure things out. So I need to go shop for another Swiss Army Renegade and do that. But I may be able to take the corrosion off of it if that's what it is. But it looks like there's a battery that leaked instead of pull. And I'm really good about like if I have multiple watches, I'll pull it out so the battery's not running. And those watches I've had probably. How old's my daughter? I've probably had them 10 years, at least. But I'm not going to go out and buy a $400, $200, $300 watch. I'm just not going to do that. You know, I'd be like, not wanting to rub up against a wall or get a tiny scratch, or I'd be not devastated, but extremely disappointed. Yeah, I had a guy I used to work with, and he had a one of those Apple watches that there's several $100s, if not $400 or $500, and he'd like wear it to work, and I'm like, it's got all kinds of scratches on it. I'm like, I'd go insane. There's no way I could do that. So try to be thrifty when I can, but a lot of it is to not spend extra money and also not worry about putting the first scratch on it kind of thing. We occasionally buy clothes from charity shops. We have a lot local. Well, if they're in good shape, just don't buy used underwear, right? Interior clothes. That's what they used to call it. I don't know if they still call it that. All right, I'm gonna go. I'll be right back. I'm gonna get a drink. I could probably save money making my own wash, right, and not using this pre-made stuff. But at some point, it's like, man, I can't be frugal about everything. Because this definitely saves time. And this stuff works really well. I mean, it coats, it protects this thing pretty well. I don't want to have to figure out what's a mix that works and storing it, and like F that. It's expensive, but I don't go through that much of it. One thing that's kind of depressing is going to an estate sale. You see how much stuff the people have collected and nobody gives a shit about. Yeah, at the end of these, you're going to have to definitely go on a date with a hand sanitizer and clean them the hell up. One thing that Mig Jimenez made a huge deal of at the show was, and this is, I'm going to have a hard time doing this because I got to retrain myself. He says, in order to keep these nozzles from clogging, well, this isn't his paint, but his paint is the same. Don't pour it like this, but go straight down. And I'm like, well, okay, that's going to take a lot of practice. It's going to take a lot of practice to do that. Because a lot of times I don't do that because the paint's too watery. So you get too much of it that comes out, but that's gonna take a conscious effort to do that. It's like, man, I've been doing it wrong. I've been doing it quote unquote wrong for decades. So hopefully this evening we'll be able to prime these. And that one shot primer he has works really well. A lot better than this. Only make your own goop. Yeah, you can do that. That's another thing I splurge on. I'm not going to make my own goop. But that's it. I'm pretty frugal about most things. I'm more frugal than most people now. Hey, I can sleep at night. I got to order more of that shit anyways. I'm thinking about it. I'm going to go ahead and... That's so much better than the Liquitex stuff. Let's see, what is this called? I should be able to find it. Vallejo. And you know what? One of the things I really like, and I haven't done it on purpose, I use multiple different product stuff. It's not like all I use is Amomeg, or all I use is Vallejo, or all I use is, War Paints. All I use is Game Workshop. No, everybody's got good stuff. Shit, it went up in price. It went up $1. You fuckers. Oh, this is Dark Earth. Okay. No, we don't want that. No, went up and here it is. Great pumice, you fuckers. I commented last time it had gone down in price. Oh, I'm not going to buy two then. I'll buy one. I was thinking about getting some of these to intersperse with them. These trees. Let me show you these. Of course, they'll need to be doctored up. You know, jungle trees. The problem is that they come in a pack of 20, but only 4 of them are 5 by 3. Only 4 of them are a decent size. These little ones would be, you know, I don't need more little trees. So I enjoy getting my shopping fix by just surfing. The first goop I ever had that I used for my DBA figures I made, and I probably used that on the first 4 or 5 armies. I used it with, you know, Elmer's glue, PVA and sand. And then I went to the Liquitex stuff, and I liked that a lot better. And then when Liquitex decided to get all save the earth, microplastics are bad, then I switched to this Vallejo, which I guess doesn't have microplastics in it. I don't know. The Vallejo's better. It's grittier than the Liquitex one. I still have some of the Liquitex natural, the one they call natural sand, which is finer, but that's more really suited for like desert stuff. Boy, we got a flash-a-rama here. Towel. I need to remember. Go and buy a towel. Go buy a freaking towel today. Experiment with a towel. You need to remember that. You know, something like a freaking dollar. A dollar, you know, something. Again, I didn't drip it straight down, did I? It's going to be a hard time learning that, if I ever do. These almost look like freaking ground artichokes. They look a bit like that. What do you guys think that people fall mostly into the vehicles on stands? You think most people don't care? You think most people are anti-stands? You think most people are pro-stands? I know it depends on the scale. Well, we're talking like, you know, 20 mil shit. I feel like most people are anti-stand. Best tweezers I got right here. I got these probably around 1985 from my dad. They're Swiss. I priced those out the other day. I'm like, I'm gonna see how much Swiss tweezers go for. They're 50. No, I'm not spending $50 on a pair of tweezers. I don't care how much fucking money I make. I don't make that kind of money to spend $50 on a pair of tweezers. I mean, I'm worth it, but I don't spend that kind of money. Although I might buy some Tamiya ones next show, and just try those out and see how they work. Actually, if I was smart, I'd probably buy them on Amazon, and then they're easier to return. Buy them at a show, you can't return them. Theirs are like, I've seen them as low as like $8 or something like that, but I've managed to get by for about 40 years without any, so other than this pair. Isn't that amazing how some things you don't lose, and then some things you can't find all the time, and you've had to replace them multiple times? There we go. All right. Good as new-ish. Good as newish. You're super fussy. I prefer overlarge bases than barely fit bases. Yeah. I think we're all fussy in our own ways. I don't like any game that requires a lot of detail painting, and then the rules are just abstract or generic as hell. I'm just like, no, I'm not interested in that. So I remember early on when I was, these bristles just gone to hell. Well, I don't think I'm being particularly violent with this thing, but I don't need to babysit this brush either. It's a tool, not something else I have to answer to. But early on, when I was like, I'm going back to World War II, I know several people have suggested, hey, did you ever try Phil Barker's, or whatever, Damn Battleships Again, or something like that? I'm like, fuck no, I would never play something that abstract and generic. I don't ever foresee playing an abstract game again. It's just not in me. It's not part of who I am. I learned to appreciate some of it, but I also have no interest in playing rules the way they're written. Because no matter what it is, and it's not that, I want to go on a power trip and it's like, but, you encounter issues that need to be solved so you don't have the damn same issue every time you play. And, some people just write rules just to sell rules, and they don't proofread them or even play test them that much. I just wouldn't be able to handle, well, that's what the rule book says, and we all agree that that's not how it should be, but we just have to swallow it. And I'm not swallowing any more stuff. Them days are over. That one's got a bit of a flash issue. Now that I'm painting it doesn't look like it's that many of them. Yeah. Yeah. Good thing is, I have probably 6 times as many that are still on that cush ball before I have to spend another $4. Think I'll be all right. If you're basing figures and vehicles, even guns need to be based to make them look consistently. So I disagree with guns because the problem with basing, let's say a 20, let's say you base a pack 38, right? You have a pack 38 you're going to base. That limits where you're going to be able to put that the base is going to be on a gun, on an anti-tank gun, significantly larger than it is proportionally on a Sherman. So a Sherman, you could get pretty close to the dimensions of the actual tank with a base, and it looks okay. Because you've got these, I can never remember what I call them, the tails, the trunnions, whatever the arms on the legs on the back of an AT gun. You're gonna have a lot of base underneath the AT gun. That is just has no purpose there unless you're going to put little ammo boxes or something like that. And then I'm going to have removable crew. I have to have removable crew. So then I've got guys that are on a penny, that are on a base, that are on the ground. So then you got. I just don't like the look of that. That's the reason I decided not to do my guns that way. And honestly, I wish all the vehicles could not be on a base, but you can't. There's some vehicles that just cannot not be on a base. They're too flimsy. They're falling apart. They're flimsy and falling apart. They're poorly designed. Whatever. Something's wrong with them, like one wheel's too tall or something, and you put them on a base so you can hide some of the problems. Maybe you have a 3D print that's missing some tracks on a tank. So if it's missing some tracks on a tank or something, you can put it in some goop and hide it. Now, I don't mind how they look on a base. There's very few situations that that the base would be an eyesore on a vehicle. It doesn't happen very often. I just kind of just ignore it. Almost like when I'm watching programming with subtitles. I don't even ignore to it. You have to have bases on figures. I saw a game that they ran a historic on. I wanted to say it was a mobster game. A 1920s or 30s, gangland, Chicago type smuggling type thing. And these guys had based all their figures. It was 28 millimeter figures, and they based them on it looked like clear acetate, because they didn't want the bases seeing, but I think it made it worse. So, basing figures is going to be a given. I just decided not to do guns that way because of, those reasons I stated. And I'm playing at a scale where you have an anti-tank gun, it has a crew of maybe three guys, and you shoot one of them, you need to remove the guy. I think it's less distracting if I'm playing a tactical game and there's no one there, but you have to remember there actually is someone there, as opposed to having to pretend that guy that you see is no longer there anymore. I don't know if I explained that properly. I probably didn't. But anyhow, I would rather use a counter to make a note that there's someone there that isn't on the playing field than having to put a ring around somebody like a casualty ring to remember, hey, that dude, he's not there anymore. I don't know. If that's my two choices, that's the one I would prefer. I've had been ad hoc and used unbased vehicles if called for. Well, you can see, most people don't agree with you. I'm not saying you're doing it wrong. I agree. I like the bases because it allows you to see what the vehicle looks in its natural environment. But as you can see, I've got a lot of bases to catch up on. A lot. But that's all right. I mean, See if you remember how we did these little plants. These are the ones that haven't been washed. We'll see how they get on with this. And I figured when I got an airbrush and I got pretty comfortable with it, which I would say I'm pretty comfortable with the airbrush, it would be something that I would use for weathering. And it hasn't occurred to me to weather with an airbrush. I don't have the kind of control. I don't have the kind of control, even slopping paint around like I'm doing now. I don't have this kind of control with an airbrush. Put them right back in the same damn hole. I don't have the airbrush skills like I do, hand painting. I've been airbrushing for 3 years and hand painting for 40. it's yeah. And I don't ever see airbrushing inside the house. Although if my compressor ever goes bad, which I'm not hoping for, my compressor ever goes bad, and it cost about $150 on Amazon, I'm probably gonna go to Spray Gunner and get one of their noiseless ones, and just see how unnoisy it is. But I make messes with the airbrush that I don't make hand painting. Like pouring paint and holding it fucking pours out. Shit like that you get from. I'm not a natural. I'm not a naturally clumsy person, but you start working on this detail oriented things. I do get a bit of tunnel vision, and that's where my sloppy things happen. Especially because I either have my contacts out or I'm using readers, so I'm really focused on what's in front of me and not what's off to the sides. I don't want to have a paint malfunction inside my house. That I have to scramble to clean up. Paint malfunction. Is it a wardrobe malfunction, a paint malfunction? I do need to find out. I mean, just out of curiosity, I have no interest really in ordering any figures at this point, but I need to find out what the name of that manufacturer is that makes all those tramp steamer figures. They make some really unique stuff. Man, I really wouldn't mind going to the toy section today in a store and look for like a tiger or something like that. I could get in behind painting a tiger or something. Nice thing is when I got these little pieces of styrofoam, when I filled in all the little spots for them, I think that means I have enough because those few was enough to do four. Do you have 4 or 5? 4. But 2 of them are rather large. Yeah. Everybody makes such a big deal out of using a spray booth, and I just don't see the purpose for it. I mean, I'm spraying in a well ventilated area. I'm not using very toxic paint. I can't smell it. It's going away from me. I have a fan that's blowing it in the other direction. I'm using really small amounts of stuff. I don't see a reason to spend $100 on a spray booth that I'm going to have to struggle with having to conform to the diameters of the spray booth and getting stuff in there and that shit, you know? Like, not looking for reasons to spend money on, things I don't need. Damn. They come out of this looking like a damn chimney sweep. Now, what's amazing is how quick this dries. I would think this would take forever to dry. This actually dries pretty fast. Shake lightly. Never seen that. Shit, I never thought about this. I should probably remove the mixing balls. I could reuse these mixing balls in some Vallejo paints. Talk about being frugal. Well, I don't use the other ones. There's people that were blasting Vallejo paints for use on the airbrush form or being difficult to use. I don't know. The ones that I don't have that don't mix well, it's because I think they were really old when I got them, and now they're 20 years old. Any of the recent Vallejo stuff is fine. But the clumpy stuff that I have is stuff that sat on a shelf and I got 20 years ago. Colors like fucking ice yellow and stuff like that. Useless ass colors. This color, this is a clumpy fucker. No, wrong one. This one. No, wrong one. Well, am I colorblind or something? Yep, working on it. This golden yellow, it's a clumpy fucker. Half of it is like watery and half of it is like a big snot. This color here. Basic skin tone. That's another useless fucking color for skin tone. For me, anyways. Pale sand. Pale sand is, that one's all clumpy. And it's not very many that are clumpy. I'd say if I have 100 paints, I'd probably have close to 100 paints. Maybe 10 are clumpy. But man, that Mix-It liquid, that Kuram's mixing stuff, that makes short work of that. I'd rather have paint that's thick that I have to thin down than the other way around. Once it's too watery, there's nothing much you can do about it. You could mix another color with it that's thicker to kind of thicken it up. And I have done that sort of thing, but this is as much fun as watching paint dry, isn't it? Literally. I'm gonna use little boy's room. I'll be right back. Let me take a look at something while I'm thinking about it. Let me go to no, not on gallery, on my files, downloads. War Game Soldiers and Strategy 126. It's the one that has this cover on it right here, has a palm tree on it. Let me zoom in on one of the pictures. It has like the toweling on it. I mean, the AT gun on a stand looks nice. It really does, but you know, we need to kill some figures. Let's zoom in on this. Yeah, this looks really nice, and they just used it as a ground cover. I don't know that I want to necessarily make the entire ground cover a towel, although a towel is a lot easier to work with than teddy bear fur. Teddy bear fur is, just by the fact that it is 100% synthetic, it is a motherfucker to deal with. Um, yeah, I've been trying to dissect stuff like this particular picture here. This particular picture here looks really good. And I'm trying to dissect. All right, if you remove the figures, and if you remove the lichen that's interspersed here randomly, and the bamboo that's used to hide some of the palm trees that who knows how the hell they're based because they're hidden that way, it's kind of a plain battlefield. If you remove, so I'm trying to like decipher, like that all together looks great. It really does. Looks very inviting. When you start pulling things out of the equation to see, okay, well, how did they put all this stuff together to make it look really good as a whole? You know, same thing with this particular one right here. This is, you know, you got a beach and you got some lichen and you've got some shell holes and you've got some trees in the back. But like I'm like, all right, I could see part of the base here, but they use the lichen to kind of hide some of it. And here's like individual shell holes. If you left them by themselves like that, it would look like ass. But they've got them all melted. I mean, it's like just trying to kind of wrap my head around, you know, how you make something like this look so damn inviting. And it's just, it's loose gravel. He's got some loose gravel there around the shell holes and stuff like that that ties everything in together nicely. But you look at that and you're like, ah, it just looks freaking amazing. You know, you got this that has jungle plants in it, and these jungle plants haven't been painted at all, and it looks okay. It could look better, but it looks okay. But that some of that grass is like really, really out of scale, super, super tall. But then it looks okay. But I would have never gotten that. I mean, it was like way too tall grass. Now the other thing I did is I did save a lot of screenshots when I watched that video done by Joe Bilton of his Pacific terrain, and I was trying to do the same thing. I was trying to like deconstruct how what all of this stuff consisted of, and this is a screenshot of a video, and this is what I'm looking at. I mean, look at that's inviting. You want to play that game. So you've got these bases of trees, and you got some lichen that kind of ties it in. This is on teddy bear fur. I'm not doing that, but most of the teddy bear fur is covered over. It's got trees on it and stuff. He's got some legitimate mountains. I don't know how you put figures on them, but they look really good. Now, I want to get some of these trees right here. And I don't think they're Games Workshop trees. Some of these like roundy jungle ones. Like some form of Chinese manufactured tree. Because those old school Game Workshop, I don't have any of them. And they were cost prohibitive. When I got them, like, look at this. Like, this as a whole, this looks pretty good. You start deconstructing some of the pieces that are on there. Like, okay, you have this hanger that's by itself. It's barely on a base, and there's another base here, and there's some lichen kind of tying things together, and loose gravel just it just really pretty cool. But I don't think I'm gonna mess with teddy bear fur. It just makes a mess being synthetic. So there's got to be some kind of like plush towel that. And I don't want the whole tablecloth to be towel, but like if you've got like an area that has fluffy grass, just to mix it up, you can cut that in areas about 2 feet around. Not really two. It doesn't have to, obviously not round, but an odd shape or whatever. I'll buy some dollar store towel and mess with that. I'm not gonna buy like a $4, $5, $6 towel and cut it up and hope I know what the fuck I'm doing because you know it'll be my first attempt at it. Well, this stuff thickened up. Started drying on here. There's space for more in here. I bet we do. We'll make one there. 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 Where is the hell old Marcus at? Oh, he's not in his normal place. He might be sleeping. Might be one of those guys that sleeps in when he's not at home. My idea of sleeping in is waking up at 6:30 when I'm not home. Is Cruel Seas a pretty popular game? It's kind of hard to tell. The Warlord definitely has some of that Games Workshop mentality of like making stuff and discontinuing it, and I think they do. Although I may have them mixed up with somebody else. I get Warlord and Victrix mixed up, and I don't use any other stuff, but they definitely have some ex Games Workshop employees, I bet. Okay, and we'll do the other type plants on this one, which we shouldn't be using as many of because we got a lot more of this style than the other ones, and the ones that are the actual leafy. This is like, even though I think these actually look better. Big old aloe looking plant. Okay. the big leafies. I'd get some of that dipping stuff, but I think it'd just make too much of a mess, and it's not an acrylic product. Although Minwax does make some acrylic stains, and I bet some of those would probably work for like this. We'll do however many of these fit on here, and then we'll stop to let this stuff dry and catch up. This does have a bit of a smell. It's not unpleasant, but it's there. The booth at the end is really good. I'm almost done with the first season, isn't it? I like the way it's done, man. It's like not creepy. Yeah. Well, I'm glad I finally gave you a recommendation that you liked. My track record again for you is not as good as yours is for me. But that was actually recommended to me by somebody else, and yeah, I really like it. It's thought provoking. It's very minimalist, but it doesn't need to be more. I think that if it'd just be a different kind of a show if it left the diner. It'd just be a different kind of a show. I don't know. I don't know what would be even better than that. The question is after you finish watching it, tell me what you think of the character, the man in the booth. What do you think his powers are, if any? Yeah. I'm glad you're enjoying it. I think it's very unique, and unique stuff with without being overly like artsy or just being difficult. I'm not a fan of, but ones were definitely like not like anything else. I'm a fan of. I'm a fan of that movie Memento, just because of how it was filmed. You know, I'm a fan of all that kind of stuff. It's like, oh, you think things are always like this? Well, this one's different. I really liked Hardcore Henry. I don't know that I'd want every movie to be like that, but definitely one of the funniest movies I've ever seen. I don't think that was the intention, but yeah, no, it's really good. And if I remember correctly, the second season is it's not one of those that the second season sucks, right? Yeah, it's like it's almost like some movie that a bunch of like theater students or movie students decided to kind of clobber together. But I remember like that the acting's not bad in it. I mean, it's like keeps you guessing. I wish there was more stuff like that. I'd watch more television and movies if things were more like that. But there's one of the things that I really like in movies, plots, whatever, and one of them is like I call it the zombie movie. And I don't give a shit about zombies. I really don't. But the thing that zombies allows you to do is fantasize about this society of a society or a life where there are no rules and you have to make up your own morality. And I like anything that has to do with that. Like, you can you can do the wrong thing and not suffer any punishment for it. Do you do the wrong thing just because you can, or are you going to hold yourself back? Anything that revolves around that, I'm a big fan of, and that's why I really liked. That's why I started liking things like The Walking Dead at the beginning because it had a lot of that. That and everybody was watching it, so it was something to talk about. But I like that whole like, okay, there's no rules. You're going to be a bad person, or you're going to hold yourself back. And then the slippery slope you fall into when all that power and freedom gets thrown upon you. The old lady creeps me out. Man, I don't remember it all. I would have watched the whole season last night if I could have. Yeah, the old lady creeps me out a little because she looks like a well-fed Nancy Pelosi. Well, then she would just look like a normal person. She would just look like a normal alcoholic. Yeah, she's definitely Nancy Pelosi is definitely in the crypt keeper category. I don't know how the hell you get so thin. Maybe when you do all the stuff that she's had to do to stay in power, all the nefarious things. All right. Well, I think at this point I'm playing a waiting game. I gotta wait for some of this stuff to dry before I can go any further. So this is where I'm gonna stop. I'm glad you enjoyed that. I'll give you more recommendations, but it's not my fault that a lot of TV programming sucks. Yeah, I think it's really well done for what it is. And Xander's great in that. And he usually plays a fucking dickhead all the time. You really hate the characters he plays. But he's actually pretty decent in that. So, what I really like about it, it's so creative, it gets me inspired to write or think of my own ideas. Well, that's excellent, man. I'm sorry it was so motivating to watch. All right, well, we're gonna be back on later today when this stuff dries out, so we can do that. But this is where we're at with the Jungle Rum. Of course, the palm trees are ready to go on this whenever we get these done, and we'll catch you guys on the next one. Warlord moved cruel seas to the Skytrek subsidiary. I've played a few games. We're playing to play in